Well guys, it's the middle of the week. It's time to get another unboxing happening. I'm getting something else out of my emergency storage shed, some wondrous mystery box or bucket or something with valuable treasure. Don't know, let's find out. It's Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel. I have committed to something out of my emergency storage shed every week, otherwise my kids are going to have to empty it when I leave this planet. So best I get onto it. Just before we go out there, I am making some progress on my main bench, getting a little bit organised. I've sorted out a lot of these workshop consumables. I don't buy any of these. All this stuff comes from other people's sheds when I do deceased estate cleanups. Consequently, I double up on a lot of things, but if I get too many of the one kind, I take them to the shop and sell them. I have to mount that buffing grinder thing shortly because that's going to be handy, and I bought this wheel so long ago and I've never used it. The fan I'm going to clean up, bit of a project there. There's another project in that box. So the bench is actually looking much better to that point, and then it gets awfully cluttered again. Anyway, that's not the purpose of this video. Let's go out to the emergency storage shed and see what we can find. Now, I haven't pre-looked. There was a little bit of a scrap-a-lanch last time we moved something. It wasn't major. It was just some stuff here, as you can see, some old fax machines and things I'm going to scrap. They took a bit of a tumble. So what are we going to do today? Well, I keep bumping into this bucket full of stuff as I walk in and out because there's not a lot of room, as you can see. And we still have a fairly imposing wall of stuff right to the rafters. And that goes back a long, long way. So I do need to get onto this. So we'll grab this bucket for a start. It's in my road. We did have a quick peek in that trunk last time, and there was some old blacksmith tools. I think there wasn't a great deal of stuff. So let's do those two things today, and that will make this area actually look a lot neater. Well, this is one heavy bucket, so I'm not sure what's in here, to be honest. Hopefully, maybe some scrap metal, but maybe some good value stuff. We seem to get nearly $100 out of every box lot, so I'll be very surprised if there's this much value here. But we'll grab the other trunk as well. And this one's heavy too. I'm getting a workout today. So with these two combined, we might crack $100. Let's deal with this tin trunk first because it's the biggest thing on the bench. And now I can see why it was heavy. And that's right, there was something I was going to use in here for a mystery object. Okay, it doesn't matter that you see it, I suppose, because if you guess in this video, you can... I won't be confirming or denying anything, but you can still guess in the next one. This one isn't a mystery. This is clearly a set of scales. Fairway, domestic scales. I've had these through the shop, quite a lot of them over the years. It's missing one of the support brackets for the tray. I don't think there's the weights in here. And unfortunately, it's extremely rusty. It's been in the weather for a while. Still would make a nice ornament. I'm not going to really go to the trouble of cleaning that up because I don't think it'll bring much extra money. I think maybe we might give it a bit of a wash and spray it with clear lacquer like we did with the ones the other week. It will leave it much more presentable, and I can put it in the shop. And, oh, look, I think we'd get $15. We might get $20 depending how well it cleans up. It's nice, the original stickers on there. So, yeah, we might get $100 out of this trunk pretty easily. We'll see how we go. As usual, I'll do a notepad at the end. Okay, they would be... I'm guessing they're blacksmith tools, or they're some sort of... Oh, it reminds me of a tool that you can clamp onto a crankshaft, and that part goes in the keyway for turning over an engine without a flywheel on it. But they kind of look blacksmith-ish, so let me know what you think on those. I think I'll call them blacksmith tools, and the last lot of blacksmith tools I had in the shop at $20 each, and they've all gone. So I think we'll say 20 for those. And again, I'll just wash them up. I think I'm not going to spray them with lacquer. I'll just make them a bit cleaner. There is something written on that. Oh, interesting. It's got a broad arrow on it. Could it be Army? I'll just clean that up a little bit more and we'll have a look. Okay, how are we going for vision there? I'm not sure if you'll see this or not. It says SR and WSC with a broad arrow. The arrow not necessarily indicating Army. It indicates a government department. And that would be the State Rivers and Water Supply Commission, which I don't know when they changed that name. It would have been maybe in the 70s, maybe the 60s. So government department, hence the arrow. I would imagine then, with that in mind, that this may be a tool for maybe turning over a large pump or something to do with their infrastructure. So I don't think it is a blacksmith tool, but it's nice that it's marked like that. So I'll clean these up just with a bit of steel wool in soapy water. I'm not going to spray them with clear lacquer. I think they'll look fine. And yeah, I'm going to put a bit more than 20 on that. We'll probably go 25, I guess, and see how it goes in the shop. Now there's another one in here a bit smaller, and it looks like, oh no, yeah, it looks like the same initials are on there. You can't quite see it as well. Definitely the same thing. It's got the arrow again, and these are a smaller version of the other one, and they're very old. I mean, that's a hand riveted pivot, so they're probably quite an old tool. Oh, and lo and behold, we have another one. So, yep, same markings. So I think I'll be doing $20 each on the smaller ones, maybe 30 on the bigger one. So what's that? We're up to $70 plus 20 for the scales, $90 already. So good value again. Now, I'll still do the notepad at the end. I won't keep adding prices together. Now that is a support. And there's another support. And this part goes with it. And this actually says Canberra. And it says 18, which would indicate 18 inch. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can guess if you like. And there's a similar thing off a different size one. This would have been 12 inch. So interesting. There's no other parts to this one. But anyway, what will I value those at? I'm going to maybe put the lot together at $20, and we'll include them in the next mystery object video, and we'll discuss what they are then and a bit more information. So I'm just going to give those a quick wash up so they're a bit cleaner, and we'll put the lot in the shop at, what did I say, $20 I think. Okay, we have the complete toolkit. Here's a larger one of these units, again stamped, and another one mid-range size. So yes, stamped again. So they're all obviously out of the one kit. I wonder if they actually came in this trunk. I'm not sure on that. I will price them individually in the shop, and I will clean them up a little bit, and we'll add the prices together at the end. And look what we've found here. That's the other cross bracket for those scales. So that will make those scales a $20 item easily. I should be able to just rivet that on. Two other items in here. We looked at these in a recent video. It's a Salter iron. And the other ones I just cleaned up, sprayed with clear lacquer, and put $20 each on them in the shop, and one of them has sold already. And the last item here is, I wonder if I should make that a mystery object as well. I think I might, so I won't tell you what it is. You probably, a fair few of you will probably know. This part moves. I'm not sure if it's going to do it. No, it's a bit seized up. I'll clean that up, and I'm going to probably put at least $20 on that. I reckon I might go $30 on that, depending how it cleans up. That's the end of this box. Now, the galvanized iron box is in excellent condition itself. Nicely galvanized because it hasn't rusted. The handle isn't so flash. We're still in shot there. So the handle's nearly broken, and it has been painted at one stage, but it's actually in very good condition. I'll give that a wash up on the lawn. I don't think it's worth trying to fit another handle. Someone else might do that. I doubt anyone's going to carry it like a suitcase anyway. It's more going to be a decorative item, or maybe just for someone to keep tools on in the back of the ute. It actually would be waterproof, which makes me kind of want to do it. But then again, the risk of having a toolbox like this in the back of the ute is that there's no security in anyone walking along the street. Given that my ute is parked out in the street, I would probably lose my tools pretty quickly. I think cleaned up, that's going to be probably a $30 piece. So yeah, nice. All right, let's get into this heavy bucket. Now, there's obviously an extension cord on the top of it. I have more than ample extension cords around this place. It's an older one. Looks like the pins are bent. I don't know what condition the cord is, but I don't need another one. I've got some good heavy duty ones. I'm just going to chop the plugs off this for copper wire, and we'll weigh it up just so you've got an idea what this much If you find old extension cords out on the street for hard rubbish, they'll be worth grabbing just for the copper wire. You do have to be very careful with second-hand cords. You don't know if they've been kinked or if they've got a nick in them, or indeed there might be a problem with the earth pin, which makes them very dangerous. So unless you know the history of a second-hand cord or have it tested, I wouldn't worry about using it. Go and buy yourself a new one. But we'll see what value this is shortly. Now, what have we got in this box? A bucket. I can now see why it's heavy. I can see axe heads. I can see lots of chunky metal bits. Here's a small, like a tomahawk. I think this is like a fireman's axe. It's had a rubber handle on it, which, well, it's still there, but it's very hard. The axe itself has been used and abused. It's flared out on the top here where someone's actually been hammering it, using it as a chisel. The blade doesn't seem overly nicked. I don't know if it's going to be branded. It's at least a $10 piece like that. And it's sort of a handy tool, whether you're even just chopping up some kindling for your shed fire or something. I don't need to keep it here. I've got plenty for my use. And I'm not going to try and clean this one up much more, but we'll put that in the shop for $10. We have a galvanized iron funnel with a very long stem. So I don't know what that's off. But it's an unusual piece. I think that's, yeah, we'll give that a quick clean up. We'll just put that in the shop for $5. All right, let's get some of these axe heads out of here. There's a couple of circular saw blades, old and rusty ones. I never use second-hand circular saw blades. I get a lot of them in people's sheds. You never really know if they're damaged. And these ones appear to have all their tungsten teeth on them. And you can tell if a saw blade is cracked if you grab a screwdriver and balance the thing in the middle and then give it a bit of a tap with whatever you have to hand, like a little axe. And if you get a lovely extended ringing sound, you know there's no cracks in it. It's still ringing. A blade that's cracked will have quite a dull thud, and you'll notice it straight off. So it's probably quite safe to use, but I don't use a lot of these circular saw blades, and I think all the circular saws I've got have got pretty new blades on them. I am going to keep these for now, and let me explain that. Normally I'd probably just put them in the scrap metal. However, I do have plans or an idea formulating in my subconscious of making some sort of cardboard shredder using second-hand blades at very low revolutions so that it's safe. So I've got a bit of a stack of them. I'll just put these aside, and one day you might see a video on my channel of how to make your own cardboard shredder, particularly useful if you want into composting or worm farming. So we'll put those aside for now. No value there. All right, we have some axe heads. Now I'm going to have to clean these up because an axe head can be anywhere from scrap metal to hundreds of dollars if you've got the right brand on it. These are too rusty to see any brands. Often you will always also find old axes that are actually cracked, or they've been used as a wedge and they're terribly mangled at the top. This one's actually pretty clean, so we just need to get the rust off it, see if there's a brand on there. We're looking for brands like Plum or Cali. There's a whole heap of different axe brands, and some of them, as I said, are worth quite a lot of money. So we won't be able to value these axe heads until we clean them up a bit and see what branding is on them. There's another one here. And again, the axe head itself, now I think that one has been cracked and welded together, which really devalues it as a collectible. It probably would be fine to actually use as an axe with a new handle, but I don't think it's going to add much to its value. But we will clean it up and see if there's a brand on it. That one's a bit chippy on the blade as well. Okay, another one here which has also got lots of surface rust over it. It looks okay otherwise. Oh no, there's a bit of a crack through there. A bit hard to see. It'll be more evident probably when we clean it up. But I will still clean it and see if there's a brand on it. So I've got a bit of cleaning to do. And that's why this bucket was heavy. It was full of axe heads. So same thing. Give that a clean up and see if we can find any markings on it. A smaller one here. Same thing again. Now this is a hammerhead, obviously. It's probably going to be a Braids or some sort of English brand. Yeah, we'll clean that up as well and see if we can see any marks. Branding does make a big difference. People collect old tools and they're not going to really pay very much at all for anything that's not branded. Here we have another solder iron. So there will be another $20. Now, not much to go in here. We have an old auger drill bit. Quite a large one. That looks like an inch diameter. It looks as though it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's very rusty, but it feels very sharp. There's a chance it's never been used. So I might give that a little bit of a buff up. These actually clean up quite well on the buffer. There's also a couple of longer ones here. The ones with the square section on the bottom here are for the old brace that you crank by hand, whereas that one there has a normal round shaft, so that would go in an electric drill. So I'll clean those up a little bit. It makes them much more saleable. We have a little bit of old chain and a hook, so not much value there, but I won't put it in the scrap bins. I do get $5 for lengths of old chain. Even though there's not a lot of length here, there is a hook on it, and people love them to hang up in their fernery to hang pot plants from, especially if they're after that rustic farm look. So there's an easy $5 there. I won't be cleaning that one. It'll be exactly how it is. And here we have, oh, interesting. I'm not exactly sure what that is. It looks to be, let me get the bucket out of the road. This part looks to be the same as a handle on the old farm machinery, but I think it's actually meant to be a handle. And this is some sort of, I don't know, is it an early wrench? It looks like the only way it's adjustable is that there's a tapered pin hammered in there. So if you knock that pin back, this part will slide. The end of it is fixed. So I'm not exactly sure what that is. Is it an early, very, very crude wrench? I'm not sure. It's not going to be scrap metal. Even if I can't really identify it, I'll give it a quick clean up. It's going to go in the shop. It'll be at least $10 in the shop. And scrap metal wise, it probably weighs 2 kilos. So it's probably worth, I don't know, $1 for scrap. So we're certainly going to do better than scrap, but I don't actually know what it is. Interesting. That's the end of our bucket. It's rather rusty and crusty inside, but I don't know that it's got holes in it. It's actually a galvanized willow bucket, but the bottom has obviously either lost its galvanizing, it has rusted a bit, or perhaps that was the metal that was in it that was sitting in water for a long time. But either or, it will still make a great ash bucket. People do buy these from me as something to shovel their ash out of their lounge room fire or their kitchen stove or something. Of course, you can't shovel ash into a plastic bucket because usually it's still hot, and that's the end of your plastic bucket. So I'll just give this a really quick wash up. We're going to get at least $10 for that in the shop anyway. So we've got a fair bit of value out of this bucket, and if some of those axe heads are a good brand, we may have even made $100 out of the bucket. Okay, it's the next evening. Everything's cleaned up. Let's go through and have a look at the notepad and have a look at how things cleaned up and see what sort of dollars we ended up with. Well, the trunk cleaned up really well as expected. The handle did actually come apart while I was washing it. I was contemplating even taking it off because it kind of detracts a bit. The iron, I've given a bit of clear lacquer, as I have done with the scales. And again, like the last scales we cleaned up that look horribly rusty and pretty much like scrap metal, a little bit of a scrub, clean up, and some clear lacquer, and they're very presentable. Easily get $20 for those. As far as these things, I did a bit of a quick search online and I could not find anything for the life of me. However, upon thinking about it, the Water Commission used to have valves under covers on footpaths, and you see those cover plates. Sometimes they're cast iron, sometimes they're a square concrete plate. I think these are actually lifting pliers for lifting up their plates, various sizes, because I would imagine they would drop into a slot and clamp on the actual plate and be able to lift it up. So if you know any better, let me know. If you can confirm that, let me know. That's my theory. I'm going to price these slightly differently, 25 or 30 for the bigger ones and down to maybe 15 for the smaller one. I've averaged it at $20 each, so there's $100 retail. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get that for them. And the other thing out of this trunk was the Canberra items, which I will keep as a mystery object. I think this 12-inch one goes with these stands because they are chromed or nickel plated. The other one I don't have the supports for. I will actually feature that in the next mystery item video, and I think I'll also build it. It's missing some timber. I should be able to make that up, and I valued that lot at $20 as far as this video goes, but if I have this one assembled with some timber, I should be able to get a lot more than that. Now, the mystery object, most of you will probably work it out, but I went to a bit of trouble of cleaning it up, and how good does that look? And it moves beautifully. I don't know if I can do it one-handed. Actually, I'll put the camera in a tripod and I'll show you what it does. Actually, I will tell you what it is because I've written it on my list anyway. I've known these as a honey tap or a treacle tap, and they screw into a drum, and it's basically a guillotining type action, and it's pretty stiff, but I think it does slide nicely. Look at that. So it's got a brass plate there that opens and closes the outlet, and it's designed for very thick liquids like treacle or honey. So that's in fantastic condition. Well, I mean, it was quite rusty, but didn't it clean up well? I did take it apart, gave it a bit of a buff up, and the brass cleaned up nicely, and a little bit of lube, and it slides fantastic. So I reckon that's a $30 piece in the shop. Very usable, quite collectible, lovely old piece. There's no brands on it, but it's really nicely made. So I'll still throw that in one of my future mystery object videos, and if you're fortunate enough to have seen this video, you'll be able to get one right, assuming you can remember what it was. So yes, I've known these as a honey tap, but I think if you search treacle tap, you'll find it as well. I don't know if they've got any other name, but that's fantastic. I love the look of that. Cleaned up beautifully. Anyway, what did we get out of our trunk? Prices just as mentioned, $220 retail. I went for $30 on the trunk. That's not a bad return, and I reckon that's quite achievable figures. Okay, let's look at what we got out of the bucket. So here's the spoils from the bucket. We had a nice bundle of electric wire, PVC covered wire, which goes at over $4 a kilo here at the moment. That weighed just a whisker over 1.5 kilos, so that's going to equal about $6. So I mentioned earlier, when you see a little spool of wire, there's $6. If you saw $6 on the side of the road, would you pick it up? There you go. I cleaned up some of these other things. I went a bit further than I had planned with the axe heads. I did clean them up in some soapy water just with a scourer, but I needed to read the brands, so I ended up buffing them on the wire wheel. This one's actually branded, I think it says Metro, and it has drop forged on the handle. I actually have a hunch that might be a German one. Now, even though it is a bit abused, it looks much nicer now. I only wrote down 10 on the list, but I think I'll actually price that a little bit higher. The funnel, we're just going 5. Now, the axes. Did we have any extra special value? Well, the one that was welded is a English-made Elwell axe. You can see it stamped there, 4.5 pounder. It's a shame it's been broken and welded. I wrote down $20 for that anyway. It's got made in England on that side. Axe heads are really collectible, and if you search eBay completed items, they're bringing some pretty good bucks for the right brands. These two here are both in reasonable condition, although they're a little pitted, but there's no cracks, and they're both branded High Test Craftsman, 4.5 pound. This one I think is a little bit easier to read. No, it's probably much. They're very lightly stamped, which is a shame, because if they've got a really deep, nice, clear stamp in them, you can dress them up and you don't lose the writing. Whereas if you tried to sand these back to take all the light pitting off, you're going to take the marks, take the writing off it too. But they're in pretty good condition. A little bit of a burr on the top there. But these axes, these High Test Craftsman axes, sell regularly on eBay for $100 plus if they're well stamped and they're in good condition. I think these ones are going to sell in the shop for around about $50 each. They will clean up a lot better. As I said, all I've done is buff them on the wire wheel, but there's not any bad pitting, and in the right hands they would actually clean up quite well. So $50 each, there we go, we've got our $100 out of the bucket. The little one here has got a brand on it, but it's very hard to read, and it's quite pitted. It's obviously been lying in dirt for a long time. I think I just wrote down, I only wrote down $5 for that one. This axe is in better condition, but it's unmarked, and I suspect it's a fairly modern one. It's still got some paint on it. The casting is not really good quality, so it may even be a Chinese axe, I'm not sure, but I think I wrote down $10. It's quite a usable axe. It does have a little chip in the blade there. But yeah, as far as a collector goes, I don't think it's of any value, or any real value. The hammerhead, I think it was marked, branded, but it's quite pitted as well. It's a very old one. I wrote down $10. It actually buffed up quite nicely, but it is it's basically unbranded because I can't read anything on there. So I think, yeah, we put 10 for that. The Salter iron cleaned up quite well again, so there's $20 quite regularly, get that for those. The chain, as I mentioned, $5 without touching it. I still haven't worked out what this thing is. I have no idea. I don't know if it's just been made up for a special purpose. Maybe it's a rare metal dinosaur. I'm going to put it in the shop and call it a part of Noah's Ark's toolkit, and people can make up their own minds. It's going to be $10. And the only other thing which I did buff up on the wire wheel, and they clean up well, is these drill bits. I think I'll get $5 for that one, and we'll group the other two together for $5. So there's $10 worth of drill bits. So how does that finish up the notepad? Well, you might be quite amazed to know that the Girl bucket full of stuff actually beat the steel trunk, but only by $1. So $221 of value out of that bucket, and $220 out of the steel trunk. The difference really being the extension cord. I could have rounded it down to $5 and they would have been dead even. So $440 return from a couple of buckets, or a bucket and a box of in some people's eyes, probably scrap metal. And yeah, it took me a little while to clean it up, but it's great stuff in the shop. It looks nice and it will sell pretty quickly. So thanks for watching, guys. Another unboxing complete. Some more cool stock for the shop. Some more stuff out of the emergency shed. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.